All right, the revolving door continues here again at the Camo at the Capitol event at the Botanical Gardens, a beautiful venue. You've outgrown it, Jesse.
We really have, and I had to really admit that tonight as
Yeah.
we pressed out into the hallway and the entry area.
The nice thing about a standing room only event, though, is it's very intimate. You get to talk to a lot of people. Of course, everybody tries to navigate their way through the crowd to get to the great wild game hors d'oeuvres or a frothy adult beverage or whatever the choice may be. But you just get to meet a lot of people and you get to have casual conversation. I'm excited to be able to visit with you, and I'm equally excited, if not a little bit more. We have
a celebrity on.
We have the chairman of the House TRW committee, Representative Byron. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
What a night, huh?
We got in a little late. We got out a little late from the house tonight, and walk into this venue and see people just pouring out into the hallway just confirms I've gotten to come to this. I think last year we missed this event because we went late that night. 2 years ago, it barely filled that room, but we were bursting at the seams tonight thanks to all the good work Jess is doing. And you guys, It was awesome to walk in and kind of worked my way to the back. What a special night.
Yeah. Sir, let's talk, if we can, briefly about where we're at with the session. We're more than halfway. I got to tell you this, and it's not because you're a guest on the podcast and it's my job to make you feel good. I'm just going to tell you straight. Your leadership with the House TRW committee this year has been nothing short of exceptional. And I just want to thank you for that. And on behalf of many sportsmen and sportswomen that I know have been engaged in, particularly with bills that have gone through your committee, nice job, sir.
I appreciate that. It was a kind of a crazy journey to get to chairmanship, and certainly not common for a sophomore to get here. Support of sportsmen specifically and people we recreate with, and leadership last year. I'd say my mentors that were in the House have certainly teed us, some of us younger representatives that all of a sudden ended up in a kind of a middle leadership role ready to do this. I appreciate the speaker allowing me and choosing me, but it's been great to get to know the sportsmen and get to work because ultimately it's about Wyoming and our people and our wildlife and our conservation and our habitat. It's just so special. This many people show up today and throughout the whole session. It has been a steep learning curve, and we had some tough bills.
Yeah, you did.
And you were throwing a bit of a curveball.
Yeah, a little bit of a curveball. And I think certainly 20 years being a fishing guide and a diehard hunter and not getting to do as much with the family anymore in time and sham, but man, we've done well. But it's because of the support we get from sportsmen and the collaboration we can do. That's how we get where we are. And it was a lot of interesting bills. I'm sure you guys have hit on them. You hit on them more, and we'll talk about them more in the future. But I certainly hope if you don't come back. And I think because of the message we sent and the support we want to give game and fish, and also we're trying to do the people's work. And
you're in the people's house, doing the people's work.
People's house doing the people's work, so it's pretty great.
Yeah. I know you're an avid angler. I'm curious, with your colleagues within the TRW committee, how many of them do you know offhand? I know it's not a requisite or a requirement, but how many of them hold active hunting or fishing licenses in Wyoming?
That's a great comment. I did a straw poll. I think I mentioned it today in the steps of the Capitol about how many people, in 2 years ago, how many people shot elk? How many people have sheep points? And staggering number, it's not that many. So in my committee, I obviously Representative Storr is a diehard angler, and I think Representative Provenza certainly, but it's not it is about that, but it's also not, because I just ended up with the best committee you could have ended up with.
Yeah. My point I was trying to get us to lead to was that isn't a requirement, but what is and should be a requirement of the citizens that do care about hunting and angling is to be engaged to the process. And you actually rely on that heavily.
So true. I mean, if we're not engaging with our sportsmen and women and industry folks, we're not doing our job.
Right.
And I think you bring a good point. I don't know exactly who might hold a license or doesn't, but I was handed a committee by leadership that engages and cares and has huge hearts and are willing to listen and make a decision. So listen, I had a lone no vote on a bill the other day, which is not all right for a chairman. But the reality of it is I support them, and I'm only as good as my committee. And we've been lucky. Hey, hats off to Representative Harshman.
I was going to say
there's color on this committee, and I'll tell it to him to his face. But
on your sponsored bill, House Bill 275, the clean kill bill, for you to be able to provide testimony and to have a guy like Representative Harshman be able to be the co-chairman to facilitate that was important. I was especially proud that day, knowing that we were on a time crunch. And I think you both have exercised some opportunities this year where you've said, we've got other pressing time commitments, but we're not leaving till the work's done. And, that takes leadership to do that.
I was so impressed by that.
That is true. You try to figure out a committee meeting in the first couple of weeks or first couple of hours, and you got to get going. So that's why I chose Representative Harshman. If you watch him run his committees, and I obviously was not involved when he was a 2-term speaker, but to watch him run revenue last year and keep it on a time frame and recognize the folks from Wyoming, they're coming to testify, pretty special. And on that bill specifically, 275 was, I think one of my good colleagues from Lincoln County said is the most important bill we're going to pass this year. And I know that some might argue because there's obviously some big property tax bills, but as a sportsman and as someone that cares that, and it's taken up a lot of our time in the interim, and that's taxpayer dollars that are getting essentially burned. And I know they did good work with what they could do, but ultimately that bill was to have people recognize that and have Representative Harshman help me with that. It was run that committee as quick as we could and get to hear the people's voice. That's what we do. The point of being there is to hear the people's voice and allow for testimony and allow for things to get out. So I think it would, obviously we still got some work to do on the other side, but it was great.
I think that bill's sitting in a really good place too. And for those that are listening that don't know what it is, the Clean Kill Bill is addressing sort of the torture of wildlife.
Animal
that
cruelty,
we saw
mutilation, torture.
Yep,
not a predator management bill. It's not a hunting bill.
And it's not detrimental to ag issues. It's really getting at the heart of what some of the problem with the Daniel Wolf incident was and where we saw that gap in that statute. But what I would also say to it is so important because we've heard tonight multiple people over and over again. Wyoming leads in many parts of the sporting world, whether it's wildlife management, whether it's ethics at the forefront, our large carnivore management, all of that. Wyoming is leading in many aspects of the sporting community. And it is the most important bill because it's important that we are saying this outwardly. We're not okay with what happened and that we're willing to fix a statute that has gaps in it. And that's something that I think is just like, should be so celebrating that. We have one good bill to work for this year, a couple good bills to work for this year as sportsmen. And it's so awesome to have something where you can stand there and say, yes.
Where everybody can agree we need this.
Yes.
I have a one line bill right now, a one word bill right now. But ultimately, when you get a bill like 275 and it has so much thought that went into it and good people working on it, you get the result we're getting.
Right.
And certainly happy to champion that bill. But it was, I'm from Hoback, not far from the incident. And I told my colleagues, let's not dwell on what happened. That wasn't a sportsman thing. It was a mistake that was made. And ultimately we have great momentum. So hopefully we can keep shuffling through the Senate side. And that's going to be one I get to look back on. I certainly now looking back on the Kelly parcel, and I thought that would be the kind of the crown jewel of maybe my short political career, but now 275 is just accents that, and it just all goes to the same thing. Like, you can do the right thing, we can pass good legislation, and we can do good work down here.
I think that makes it really important, though, is for sportsmen, it's the state legislature that are doing the things that are the seminal moments for wildlife and for our lands on the ground and everything. It is the state legislature. And you talked about Kelly. I feel the same. It is a crown jewel and one of the things that we've worked on. And it was a lot of hard work to get through. But man, we got it. Mm-hmm. And how incredible to get that in a lifetime and be able to see the fruits of that. And
beyond our living years.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's so exceptional about that in my mind.
Yeah, and then these bills that come through, whether it's 275 or it's the good ones that are coming forward where you get to say, I've been a part of it. And I've had an effect. And all of these people here tonight at Camo at the Capitol, they had an effect. They're part of this. They're part of that fabric of what has made Wyoming so incredible for wildlife, for conservation, all of that. And it's something that I preach a lot when I'm talking about. We get distracted with national politics a lot. But as a sportsman, really what's affecting what you care about and love on the ground is state legislative stuff. And getting them involved and getting them here to talk with folks like you, Representative Byron, to bring those good ideas forward and to work for that betterment of the state and the heritage and the legacy that's going in there. That's what keeps me hooked. That's the thing where it's like we make meaningful changes. We bring people in and you see the lights in the eyes go on, bringing all of those folks into the House gallery today. I want to know what it felt like from your perspective.
On the other side, yeah.
Because I know what it felt like from mine, because I was seeing lights go on. I was seeing people realize that they have some power, they have a voice, they have, an ability to communicate and make some change in this amazing state that we all love.
And a willing ear, right?
And a willing ear. And that was the thing before we walked in there. I was like, they're going to stand up and they're going to recognize you. But understand that they're recognizing
you, actually.
Yeah. It was so meaningful to have that. And I think all of that at the state legislative level is often forgotten because we get so distracted with national politics and whatever pendulum is swinging there, that we don't focus as sportsmen, as wildlife, as conservation, at the state level enough.
Yeah, I think your first couple years, 2 years down there, you're down there and you hit the button and get the green light to talk, and you still get a little bit of a frog in your throat. But now it's to do something like that today, and you look up and you see the Camo at the Capitol stand up and fill the whole gallery. It just reminds you the burden as to why we serve. And it reminds you that these folks are here from all different walks of life, from all different areas of the state and out of the state, that are keeping an eye on Wyoming. And I think Director Bruce summed it up tonight really well in her speech. And I don't know if you guys have hit on this yet, but people are watching and they want to be like us. And that's because the process works. And when you're sitting down on the floor and you get to announce a group like Camo at the Capitol and recognize Jess and do the good things, without that support as a legislator, I am nothing. So to get to see this event evolve from what I heard it was a couple of years back, and a few of you, and to now occupy a whole gallery in the Wyoming, the People's House, is pretty special. So it's a burden, but it's a burden we need to be able to think about the votes we're taking and think about what the future looks like for us as sportsmen.
This event started the year that we passed the license plate bill.
Yeah, 2018.
And it was 9 people that came.
And that license plate bill came back to my committee this year.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So Herr Pappas was not around, and we got that through committee pretty easily. And I feel we don't have a lot left over from our committee last year with wonderful Representative Newsom and Chairman Newsom who ran it out of Cody. So it was we got that one through pretty quick the other day because we were known to spend some time on some of our bills and House TRW because it's important and we're talking about them and we're hearing from folks. We got people getting on Zoom, and that's why we're doing. But I was glad to get that through, and that'll give a lot more people opportunity to grab that conservation license plate.
Yeah, it just makes it easy. And that's what it needed.
Yeah, and for those listening, this bill that Representative Byron is talking about, we passed the license plate bill that was allowing for the conservation license plate. You may have seen it earlier. It had a mule deer on it. Now it has a pronghorn.
Really cool pronghorn.
Joey did a great job on that.
Yeah, that's a great, and the fence. It was good to get that description the other day.
Now the pronghorn plate is out there. I did share with folks in Big Piney this past Saturday. We had an event there. I was like, all right, now that the mule deer plate is, you can't get it anymore. I'm going to share a fact with you. When Joey designed that, the effort he put into finding the right mule deer to go on that plate, and I hate to even say this out loud, the image that we found that Joey could make work with next to Steamboat, that's actually a deer out of Colorado.
God, don't say that.
But we swore to secrecy when the plate was out. But boy, he knocked it out of the park with the pronghorn plate.
That is a Wyoming pronghorn for sure. I don't know that factually, but as a legislator,
it is. Yeah, that one I can tell you.
What a great plate. Yeah, and to the point that Jess was making, it is that bill makes it a lot easier. County treasurer now, and a lot of folks were mentioning in testimony that, hey, we really want one of these, but there's a little bit of a cumbersome way to get there. Simplified that, and it'll take a little time for that to get enacted and get rolling, and your county treasurers to get that. But really, really good for those folks that want that really cool plate. And especially, I'm not saying the mule deer wasn't special, but this new one's pretty darn cool. So
I'm working for the organization, Pronghorn and the Low
I
House.
hope people opt into that one. It's going to be.
I can tell you, when we started to design that, I walked over to the Sweetwater County Courthouse, and behind DMV, they have this wall of plates that date way back. I mean, it's just this huge display of just a collection of plates that span many years. And we were looking at those, and for some reason, the 1978 Wyoming plate just jumped off the wall, and so that was the inspiration. I took a picture of it. I asked the lady, "Can I get up behind the counter? Can I get a closer picture?" And I told Joey, with that fence there, with fencing and how important that is, I was like, "Can we make this look like that?"
I'm so glad.
I heard about that fencing.
I might be wrong, but is that background of that plate white in color? It is. Yeah, I remember it. See,
it does stick out.
As a Wyoming guy, I do remember that. And then we got a little testimony in kind of red lettering, darker red lettering. Yeah, it's not in front of us right now as we sit here in the Botanical Gardens, but it's in my vision. The fence line, it was mentioned the other day. Yeah. Pretty darn cool to bring that into the bottom of that plate too.
Chairman, I'm curious. We've talked a lot about some positive things, but this session has been like no other session for a lot of people. There's more people that have been paying attention to this session than I've ever heard in years past, and that's a great thing. There's a silver lining to that. But we've heard it's been a freaking circus. What's been your biggest frustration with this session?
Circus, man. Like a really big circus.
Yeah, with a lot of monkeys.
A lot of unique animals. I think you could hit on a lot of things here, but ultimately it's what's the Wyoming way? And what's the Wyoming way as it comes to sportsmen? What's the Wyoming way in terms of how you support our communities, our small towns? What's the Wyoming way in terms of working together? And we haven't seen a lot of it. And that's tough, right?
That's frustrating.
It's frustrating as certainly as what still feels like a newer legislator, only in my second term. And decorum, respect, and the Wyoming way important to me. And it's not just because I was born and raised here and got the privilege of going to college, great university over the hill. We're seeing some outside influence that doesn't know what that feels like. They don't know what it looks like when you're driving through southern Sublette County or trying to go fish Fontenelle or getting blown around on Boysen. It's just, and that's tough because it's hard to talk to those folks and to try to reason with them and get good work done. So that's probably been my biggest frustration. I think that...
Do you feel like there's been a lot of political grandstanding? 800 bills, only 286 move forward.
I think you bring up a really good point. And the reality of it is, certainly my mentor, Albert, got some heat for bills not getting out, but we've seen a multiplier there. A whole lot more that didn't get anywhere. And grandstanding...
I think I heard he just pocketed maybe 8.
Yeah, I think it was...
sub 2 digits.
8, yeah, not that many. And political grandstanding, listen, if we're going to bring bills forward that demand conversations in committee of the whole, we're going to talk about them. Mm-hmm. And we did, because they're important bills to our people. And that's what happened the first couple of weeks. And if anyone says anything different, then come join us in the Capitol. But that was important because we had to talk about those important bills, and we had to work through amendments or not work through them, because we brought a lot of amendments to a lot of bills. When you have a bill that gets 19 or 20 amendments and only 2 or 3 pass, that's a sign the bill's not ready. But that thing sailed right through. I'm talking about House Bill 199, not related to sportsmen, but that's a sign that, wow, this is different. So, yeah, I think there's grandstanding on all sides, and I think at the end of the day, that hurts Wyoming. We can be better than that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
We should be better, and we got elected to be better. I don't know if there should be a prerequisite to running. You have to, touch every county and come on a fun fishing trip in the year,
and maybe visit with a volunteer fire department.
Maybe go see a volunteer fire department and see what happens when you're wondering where the funding's going to come from. But more than that, the sportsman side, we talked about it to start this conversation tonight. There's a lot of folks that haven't picked up that fly rod, haven't picked up that 300, haven't applied for a tag. Mind blowing. When former Representative Western and I did a little straw poll on that joint thing, at that time there's 4 people in the body in the House out of 62. I might be the only one left. A couple of my colleagues had harvested one in the past.
So you're the high point holder in the House?
Yeah, that bill's coming next week, so that's going to be fun. Can I go conflict? I don't know how I'm going to go on that one, but as a chairman, I know how I'm going to vote, and we'll see what happens with that bill. But it's important because this isn't about me. Right. It's about my kid who's 5.
Yep.
And it's not just about sheep points or any of the other points. It's about the angling. It's about the wonderful sagebrush flats, the conifer forest, the aspen quakies. That's what it's about. And it's about being able to go enjoy that part of Wyoming with my kid. And then hopefully, if we're lucky, if we do good work here on the ground for the Capitol and all these great organizations, then we get the privilege to do what we're all here for, which is get to recreate, hunt, fish, and do those things in Wyoming's wild spaces.
We've had a young man that's been around in front of your committee a couple of times, but I can tell you he is giving me hope. Policy is not easy, and policy in the sporting world is complicated.
Are you talking about Colton Chick?
I am.
Yeah, so I had him on earlier, and I was amazed. I also found it to be a breath of fresh air, but in visiting with him, the amount of reference that Colton had given just in the praise to FFA.
Yeah.
And he didn't come from a family that has any ag ties. He just thought this would be something cool. I want to try it. But you talk about the character building. And when I was a young man, the Boy Scouts was the thing. And I don't know many. I know there's still some active troops, but even that organization has had some change. But when you look at what FFA and the impact that it has had to put him on the course that he's on, with his understanding at that age, it is a breath of fresh air.
He's going to be one of our governors some days, I think.
Yeah. He certainly has
out of the
aspiration
woodwork
for the policy arena, for
he
sure.
does, and he has the mind for it. And we're not bringing him to committees. He reached out and said, hey, can I come in and shadow you this week and sit in these committees and work and lobby folks? And I was like, yes. And also, we killed all the bills last few weeks, so we are lighter load this week. Cool. He brought 3 buddies.
I asked his buddy off air, I was like, so he's always talking politics to you? And he just rolled his eyes. It's like, it's exhausting.
So what did he have today, Jess? We had our TRW committee. We heard wonderful Senate File 88, large project funding, which is so special. All of us, 80 people filled the room. We only had a few open chairs.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty fun to get to talk to your Senate counterpart, Chairman Landon, and
we were filing in behind him. I don't know if they saw
I tried to keep it quiet, and then obviously my good friend Bob Budd, and then to see Colton walk in, I was like, here we go. And then for the listeners out there, the craziest part was we're encouraging. Jess did a great job trying to get folks up there comfortable testimony, because that's so important. Be comfortable coming and talking to your people.
And it can be intimidating.
We work for you. But the TRW committee, come on, we're just up there to pass good policy.
We're rednecks in a suit coat, right?
Stop bad policy, pass good policy. But Jess did such a good job of having folks up there. And then Colton came up and had his word. And then I saw this more senior looking Colton come up, and I knew right away I had to take a couple rights and lefts. And Colton's dad came up and had a good quick word. But I was lucky enough at this wonderful event tonight to get to visit with his dad for probably a half an hour and hear the story behind where he's ended. And I asked him, I said, how do we get where Colton, like, how do we make more Coltons? Where do we get there? And he said, Andrew, this isn't not coming from me. I have a great professional career doing some other stuff, but he's inspired and he cares and he is engaging, and I want to let him spread his wings and fly. So I think it's pretty great that Jess's mentorship and others' mentorship, FFA specifically, getting to hear about that program it didn't sound like his family did that.
Yeah, I think his dad's a pharmacist with the VA, and his mom's a science teacher at an alternative high school.
But I think that's a note for all of us that are in any kind of position to offer a platform to a young person, that when you see that fire, and man, Colton has it.
Oh, man,
you see that fire,
and encourage.
It is so easy
and
to
help
just
foster.
Open the door, and anything you can do to get them up there and say, yeah, anytime you want to come, I'm going to help you testify. We're going to get you in front. We're going to come meet the governor. Come do this. He's the inductee for the Wyoming Outdoor Hall of Fame, and I know you sit on this.
Yeah, when we seen the 2 nominations, the other nomination is great. They were both great, but when we looked at both of those, Colton's just jumps off the paper. It's wow.
There's Colton is unique, but Colton is not solo in this. There's others out there. And,
there are.
And I think to the sporting community and to the legislative community, one of the hardest things, and you're one of the younger representatives in there, and I think that's something, as someone that has even looked at running for office, it's daunting. And we have a young, up-and-coming person who's looking dead in the eyes of the lion saying, I want to do it.
Yep.
How can we facilitate that and get that out there?
And he can't get away from a single time of testifying when he's not told that it's this next step. I remember testifying in front of a county commission meeting in late 90s and being terrified. I can't imagine what I said. And then he gets up there and commands the room. As a chairman, when it's my job to control it, I just want to sit back and listen.
I have to tell you, folks have been like, oh, are you coaching him? And I'm like, he's writing his testimony. He's showing it to me. I've never changed one.
Yeah, he's polished.
That's all him.
That
is all him. I have never edited, changed, nor guided that. I think he's just looking for, yes, go for it.
I also hear he's pretty handy with a shotgun. So so if I try to go for a field trip.
Yeah.
Hey, Chairman Byron, I'm curious, what validity do you, and I know you can't speak for the other members of the committee, but we live in a very fortunate time and it wasn't that long ago where virtual testimony was not even an option. And this is an opportunity for folks around the Cowboy State to care about issues, that there are challenges this time of year, particularly to get to Cheyenne. But the opportunity to be able to weigh in and be engaged through testimony, does it carry less weight than those that are in person?
I appreciate that question. I certainly had some mentors that are retired from the body, and some of them didn't allow testimony via Zoom. I think as sportsmen, and with how big our state is, and that's why we love it so much, it's really critical to have that option.
Sure.
Repetitiveness is important. You might get in and say ditto to this, or I agree with that. But when you start seeing it, like Colton, when you start seeing the same face a couple times, you're like, wow, they're engaging. They're following every one of these bills. They might be an angler now following hunting bills. They might be a hunter that's now following angler bills. They might be neither. They're just following WWNRT bills. So I think it's super important for that engagement. And we're lucky to have that. It wasn't very long ago.
You're right.
And it is a journey from our neck of the woods. We know that. It is,
you're right.
People often ask, how do you get from Hoback to Cheyenne? It's like, what's a right and a left and then a right? But it's 400 plus miles. But to be able to hop on Zoom and for us to hear that as a committee chairman, new committee chairman, I have great staff at LSO, but I really valuable that. And people need to, it's a little less intimidating, right?
Sure.
Hopefully you're in your PJ bottoms and you're sitting in your office, wherever you might be across our state or the nation, and come chime in on this, because job that we need, it's hard to listen to you. So, hey, it's a great question. And I know there's mixed feelings about that. Given some of the issues we don't bring ourselves into, but our weather systems do, and our distances in the state, I think it's really great that former bodies have allowed that. And it's starting to gain a little momentum. Now, that being said, I think you can comment on this. She's testified in a lot of committees, but at the end of the day, we are humans. We are a citizen legislature. So we need to, our attention spans aren't always that long. So if you can hammer it home in 30, 60 seconds, you make your point a lot better than that 5-minute conversation or testimony. We're not supposed to have much conversation.
Connection matters.
And where you're from matters. Where you're from and what you do.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a concerned citizen in Green River. I don't fish or hunt, but this is an issue I have. Boom.
Boom.
That's important.
Yep.
I'm a concerned citizen of LaGrange, and I love dove hunting. Perfect. Nail it. But the relatability, where you're from, how long you've been involved, I want you there in front of me, but I recognize you can't be there. Share your thoughts. Let's get through it. And man, I think, and I would speak for my committee, they're listening during those.
They really are.
There's also
Really
two
are.
huge
They're
screens in the room. There's a normal person in front of you, but now they got a couple 100-inch TV screens, and the audio today, there's a really loud audio mishap.
Sometimes it comes in.
The audio gets piped in. So that's a good opportunity we have. And that, it wasn't around long ago and could be gone again soon.
I will say, on the logistics side of things, if you are signing up for Zoom, it's really good to do it the night before. Some committees have some rules around how early you can sign up or how late you can sign up. So you don't want to do it right as the committee's coming in.
Yeah.
You want to sign up before then, at least an hour before then, sometimes night before then, depending on what it is. Is pretty straightforward. You hit in, I think it's legislative meetings is the little tab that you hit, and then you can see what's up tomorrow and what bills they're looking at, and you click on it, it'll say details.
Yeah, Chairman Byron,
Testifying.
you mentioned that it may not be here. Where are you going with that?
No, nothing concrete, but it's certainly, and I think it's more wonderful colleagues of mine that are no longer in the body, but it's not a guarantee, right? All of our meetings are, I think now the standard is to have them
The virtual testimony option.
just live on
Mhm.
YouTube, not always virtual testimony, but there are certain chairmen, and sometimes on big topics, I'm one of them, but we do have to honor those folks that did take that time to drive that far. But that being said, I've been lucky enough to get through all my virtual testimony, and I have no reason.
And you were hard when you say 60 seconds, 61 seconds, but you're done.
I had my phone going.
That's good, though.
That's when we
It
have that.
sets a precedent.
But that's how people get the chance to say something. And truly, from someone who has watched a lot of these committee meetings in the last 10 years, sometimes if you don't have a chairman, it does not abide by that. Not everybody gets
Yes,
to say something. So at least
And if you crack the door, someone will abuse it.
Exactly.
And then you're hurting somebody else.
Yeah.
For the committee, you not only crack that door, but you start to overtalk it, and people's minds start to wander. And that's hard because I want their mind to wander. I want them to really, my committee, to really put deep thought into every decision we're making. But there's truth to talking a bill to death. And
You can. It can go the other way.
it can start to sway.
Someone that's been on the
Jess's
other
watch.
side.
Tell me what time it is.
Yeah. But I think to Jess's point, wildedge.gov is a great website. You just have to be patient. Always call LSO. They can walk you through it. The LSO's numbers on the website. But it is. Sometimes you do have to pre-register. And I made a deal that I hoped everyone was trying to pre-registering the night before by 5. And certainly have let some latecomers in to testify because they're like, Andrew, we couldn't find the email. Things happen, right? But life happens. Try to do it off your phone. We've had so much good testimony this year from the cab of a pickup truck. I think there's been some from the seat of the tractor.
Yeah,
It's like bouncing around. So
The big takeaway, though, on virtual testimony is
do it. Show up.
tell me what time it is. Don't build me a clock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
And
To the point,
just
quick.
say your spiel, and please know that really matters to the committee.
And as you're listening, and this is something that we were talking at Camo at the Capitol today, a couple of things that we were talking about is tell your story, be relatable, be brief, reiterate how you want them to vote.
Ask. You got to make an ask.
You got to say it. You got to make an ask. You got to say, hey,
I'm
you're
in
going to
favor.
vote yes
I
for this.
oppose.
I want to
Please.
see a yes.
Yep.
But the other side of that is that sometimes there is an element of read the room. And if it's dragging on an hour and 30 minutes of testimony and everybody has said your talking points, now's the time for you to go, hey, I'm here. I'm paying attention. I care. Ditto. And thank you.
No, Jess, that's a great point. And when you're on the 10th of the same, and folks will get better at it, I think. Listen, I'm still only my second term, but yeah, that's important. The ditto is real, but let us know where you're from and let us know what your thoughts are. And then
Still talk.
Yeah, still
Just-
talk, but the big thing is hitting that final comment for or against, because that's the lasting impression the committee needs.
Yeah. Hey, it's been great to sit down with both of you. I know it's a busy schedule. I know you're burning the candle at both ends. Long days, short nights. But Chairman Byron, I want to thank you for your leadership with the House TRW committee. I know you had a good mentor there.
We miss
Yeah,
Representative Newsom, but
Yeah.
I'm glad to see where you're at.
Sandy was very kind in trying to push it a little bit early on, and then obviously August happened, and we'll certainly give a shout out and appreciate the Speaker Nyman for making the tough decision he did. It didn't go unnoticed, and to just get to represent sportsmen and fellow anglers and hunters and conservationists and folks that just care about every corner of the state. It's pretty special. So yeah, we are burning the candle late. It's great to have this as certainly one of the highlight events of the year, and who knows what tomorrow brings. We got Monday off, which is hard to think of, but yeah, maybe we'll have a shorter day tomorrow. Dare I say that? But
It just jinxed it.
yeah, I know. I think the good majority floor leader wants to get people on the road and get back back to their families and maybe get a chance to get outside because we do spend so much time inside. Really appreciate having me on. I was told to come over here and thinking, do I really want to? I don't know how this is going to go.
You were voluntold.
Yeah, when Jess tells you
I've
you
been
do.
doing that all day to him.
I will say, we had a great press conference, and I guess when the press conference happens, the chairman needs to talk, so that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. When it's not scripted, it comes off my tongue a lot easier. Thank you, Jess. And I would love to get back on. We have a lot of good things to talk about and a lot of good items, especially related to the fishing world and all of the things that are intertwined with Camo the Capital. But this ends quickly. This is over soon. March is around the corner, 7th. Yeah. You're counting it down, aren't you? I'm not counting it down. We get reminded every morning when we get in and do our roll. But at the end of the day, that's what's beautiful about this. We're done. We're going home. We're going to go be with our people and our state and wonderful events across the state. And I'm sure we'll talk more about those. And on the podcast, you will. But keep engaging and keep talking because next year's
a very important year with the budget session.
It is, and where some of this funding goes, and then you blink twice and we're on to what happens that following year. So anyway, really appreciate the opportunity and thanks for having me.
On a final note, just because we've talked so much about engagement and the importance of it, can you elaborate a little bit on what significance and priority you would put on folks engaging on interim topics and committee meetings?
Yeah, we're staring down 1 week. I think interim topics are due online by next Friday, a week from tomorrow. And that's when the people really get to have their voices heard. And,
that's right.
And our management council and our leadership has taken a stance that we're going to hear all those and we're going to talk about them. My co-chair on the Senate side and I are going to have a couple meetings next week chatting about them as they come in. And that's what shapes the future.
Yeah.
And that's where people can really testify. And as Jess said, and we're going to have the spiels, but you don't have a bill to testify on, we don't have anything. So I think it's great. And the interim topic thing is certainly, we're going to go statewide. And I think right now we have a plan to have a meeting in DuBois, Casper here in Cheyenne. And that could change, but that's the plan right now. And I think that's important. That's a big line across the state. We start in the northwest corner, we hit the middle of the state and end up back down here. But that's what's important. That's when folks can, if the virtual thing's not ready, they can show up to those meetings. Those are 2-day meetings and hopefully close to your community. But yeah, any topic anyone has gets recognition, gets talked about. So that forms on the Wild Edge website. And I think it's really important because we certainly have our ideas, but the way this works is when the people talk. The way this works is when the people share those and get them, and via email. I have a lot of folks email me different ideas, but that's important to me and the co-chair on the Senate side, and we'll take those all into consideration. At the end of the day, certainly some of the leadership gets some influence on that, but they've been good in letting us direct what we want to do. So we're going to do good work with it. And it's a lot of meetings, 6 meetings minimal. So 6 days of meetings, not just meetings, 6 days of meetings. That's a lot of hours and a lot of opportunity to talk about topics.
Yeah, what a great conversation we've had. Appreciate both of you and your involvement. Certainly, Jess, with Camo at the Capitol. This is your baby, and you've fostered it well, and you've nurtured it well, and it paid dividends tonight, and it showed the value of this. And certainly, Representative Byron, your leadership again, thank you for that, but also your support of this event and being able to rally sportsmen and sportswomen for the wild things and wild places that we care about.
I appreciate that. I have to. It's all because of Jess. So please give her all the credit. I'm just a fly on the wall and just happy to help out. And the leadership that we get from the sportsman community is really important in the direction we're going.
Yeah. Again, another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. Until next time, happy trails.
And that wraps up another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. But remember, the journey doesn't end here. Make sure you never miss out by subscribing. Whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, streaming us on our website, or following us on social media, subscribing is the best way to stay connected. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more wild episodes.
Everybody knows I'm a muley fanatic.